Hello and welcome. Namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. US President Donald Trump says in an interview that it's possible he'd be willing to talk to Iran, but it depends on the terms, as Tehran's foreign minister rules out any talks with America in another interview. Kremlin spokesperson says Russian President Vladimir Putin has offered different options to mediate in the Iran conflict, which is still on the table a day after a Trump-initiated phone call between the two leaders. EU Economy Chief Valdis Dombrovskis says the European Union doesn't support removing sanctions on Russian oil despite soaring energy prices due to the West Asian conflict. And the Indian government issues Natural Gas Supply Regulation Order 2026 to regulate production, supply and distribution of natural gas in the country following disruptions in global supplies due to the West Asian conflict. US President Donald Trump, in an interview to Fox News, has said that it's possible he would be willing to talk with Iran, but that it depends on the terms. Trump's remarks came after he heard Tehran wanted to talk badly, according to Donald Trump himself. The US President further said that he does not believe that Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, can live in peace. The US President further reiterated that results of the American military operation in Iran was way beyond expectation, and he was surprised that Iran was striking Gulf countries with missiles and drones. And prior to this, the US President had also said that he's had a very good call with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday about Ukraine and the conflict in West Asia.
I had a very good call with President Putin. We had a lot of people on the line from our side, from his side. We were talking about Ukraine, which is just a never-ending fight. And there's tremendous hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky. They can't seem to get it together. But I think it was a positive call on that subject. And we obviously talked then about the Middle East. And he wants to be helpful.
Now, according to the Kremlin's foreign policy aide, Yuri Ushakov, the two leaders spoke for about an hour after Trump initiated the call. He said Putin shared proposals aimed at reaching a quick settlement to the conflict involving Iran during the conversation.
A phone conversation took place this evening between the presidents of Russia and the United States. Donald Trump called Vladimir Putin to discuss a number of extremely important issues related to the current international situation. The focus naturally was on Iran conflict and on the US participated trilateral talks on the Ukrainian settlement. I should say straight away that the conversation was substantive, frank and constructive, as is usually the case in the dialogue between the Russian and US leaders.
Further, Ushakov also mentioned that Trump shared his view of the situation, particularly regarding the ongoing US-Israel military operations.
The Russian president set out a number of considerations aimed at the swift political and diplomatic settlement of the Iran conflict, taking into account the contacts held with leaders of the Persian Gulf states, with Iran's President Pezeshkian, and with the heads of several other countries. In turn, the US President gave his assessment of developments in context of the ongoing US-Israel operation.
The Kremlin also said on Tuesday that Russian President Vladimir Putin has offered different options to mediate the US-Iran-Israel conflict. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told reporters that Moscow is ready to provide any assistance it can to reduce the tensions in the West Asian region.
From the very beginning of this Iran crisis, before the military phase began, President Putin proposed options for our mediation in good offices that could help reduce tensions. Many of these proposals are still on the table, as the Russian president said yesterday. Russia is ready and will be happy to provide assistance to the extent possible.
Многие из этих предложений.
And after US President Trump and his Russian counterpart Putin discussed the war in Iran, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has had a phone call with his Iranian counterpart Abbas Araghchi. Earlier, Russia, along with UAE, called for an end to all attacks on both Iran and Gulf states, saying that renewed diplomacy was needed to ensure long-term regional security. Meanwhile, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said that Tuesday would be the most intense day of strikes against Iran in the campaign so far, as the US would bring the most fighter jets and bombers against Iran into play.
We will not relent until the enemy is totally and decisively defeated. But we do so on our timeline and at our choosing. For example, today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes. Intelligence more refined and better than ever. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, the last 24 hours have seen Iran fire the lowest number of missiles they've been capable of firing yet.
So mixed signals coming in from Washington and the Pentagon, because while Trump has told Fox News that he may speak to Iran, just a day earlier he had said that the US would intensify actions against Iran and would go further and further, while assuring that military operations would end very soon, helping stabilize turbulent markets amid the escalating West Asia conflict.
We could call it a tremendous success right now as we leave here. I could call it, or we could go further, and we're going to go further. But the big risk on that war has been over for 3 days. We wiped them out in the first 2 days.
Following the appointment of Mujtaba Khamenei, son of the assassinated Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, as Iran's new supreme leader, Tehran unleashed missile and drone barrages on Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Israel and even Turkey, intercepted by NATO defenses. Iran maintains the Strait of Hormuz blockade, halting most tanker traffic and driving benchmark crude to highs before a partial retreat. Wall Street turned positive on Trump's short-term excursion remarks after over 5,000 targets were struck. France is leading defensive efforts to reopen the vital choke point post-conflict peak, while Russia has vowed unwavering support to Iran amid regional rallies and intensifying Hezbollah clashes in Lebanon. And in the middle of all this, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has said on Tuesday to CNN, in fact, that his country would keep fighting as long as necessary. In an interview with CNN, Araghchi effectively ruled out negotiations with Washington, saying Tehran had a very bitter experience of talking with Americans. Recalling previous US attacks during earlier negotiations, Araghchi said he did not believe negotiations with the Americans would be on our agenda anymore. Speaking of the strategic Strait of Hormuz, the Iranian foreign minister said that Tehran has no intention to close it right now, but as the war continues, we will consider every scenario. And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that he aspires to enable the Iranian people to rid themselves of tyranny. He also emphasized that Israeli strikes are breaking the bones of the Iranian regime.
Our aspiration is to enable the Iranian people to cast off the yoke of tyranny. Ultimately, it is up to them. But there is no doubt that through the actions taken so far, we are breaking their bones and there is more to come. If we succeed together with the Iranian people, we will bring about a permanent end to the extent that such things do not exist in the lives of nations. We will bring about change, and we are already bringing about a massive shift in Israel's standing.
Meanwhile, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, has declared that Iran alone will determine the end of the ongoing war, rejecting Donald Trump's claims of imminent victory and demands of unconditional surrender. Brigadier General Qimar Haidari, Deputy Commander of the Khatam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters, warned that if the US and Israel attacks persist, Tehran will block even 1 liter of oil from leaving the region. He vowed unrelenting retaliatory strikes and designated all American military bases across West Asia as legitimate targets, signaling Tehran's resolve to impose its will despite heavy losses and the prolonged regional crisis. Also, Iran's security chief Ali Larijani on Tuesday warned US President Trump, saying the Islamic Republic was not afraid of his empty threats. In a social media post, Larijani said, and I quote, "Iran is not afraid of your empty threats. Even those greater than you could not eliminate the Iranian nation." End quote. Now, Larijani's remarks have come in response to a post by Trump threatening to hit Iran harder if it stops the oil flow through the strategic Strait of Hormuz. And oil prices fell on Tuesday to around $92 a barrel after hitting their highest level in more than 3 years. The drop has come after US President Trump predicted the war in the West Asian region could end soon. Oil prices surged past $100 a barrel on Monday, hitting session highs of $119.5 USD for Brent and $119.4 at USD for WTI, the highest since mid-2022, as supply cuts by Saudi Arabia and other producers during the expanding US-Israel war with Iran stoked fears of major disruptions to global supplies. And in news just coming in, Japan's industry minister has said that G7 has confirmed readiness to take necessary measures to support global energy supplies, including possible release of strategic oil reserves. Now, the EU has opposed removing oil sanctions on Russia to cool energy prices. EU economy chief has said on Tuesday that the European Union did not support removing sanctions on Russian oil despite soaring energy prices. Meanwhile, European gas prices tumbled around 15% on Tuesday. The Dutch TTF natural gas contract, considered the European benchmark, fell to around €48 after rising sharply the day before. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the decision to reduce the share of nuclear energy in electricity production in Europe was a strategic mistake. And the Indian Cricket Board announces a cash reward of 131 crore Indian rupees for the entire T20 World Cup winning squad.
One of India's newest states, one of India's oldest lands. Jharkhand is a hidden
Take a front seat to witness the grandeur
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I am Gautam Roy. Now, amid disruptions in global LNG supplies due to tensions in the Middle East or West Asia, the Centre has issued a national gas control order to regulate supply and ensure priority allocation for key sectors. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya has this report.
Amidst the global supply uncertainties, the Government of India has issued the Natural Gas Supply Regulation Order 2026 to ensure uninterrupted availability of natural gas for the critical sectors. Under the new order, 100% supply of natural gas will be ensured for domestic piped gas to households and CNG used in transport, protecting essential consumer needs. Fertilizer plants will receive 70% of their average gas consumption over the past 6 months, while tea industries, manufacturing units and other industrial consumer connected through national gas grid will get around 80% supply. Industrial and commercial consumers supplied through city gas networks will also receive about 80% of their previous 6 months average supply to industrial and commercial natural gas consumers. To meet these priorities, gas allocation to refineries will be reduced, along with cuts for petrochemical units. India earlier sourced about 30% of its natural gas through the Strait of Hormuz and is now exploring alternate routes to offset the shortfall. Taposh Bhattacharya's report, TD India.
And India is supplying around 5,000 metric tons of diesel to Bangladesh through the Bangladesh-India Friendship Pipeline. The pumping of the fuel began on Tuesday from Assam, with the diesel expected to reach Dinajpur in Bangladesh by Wednesday evening. The cross-border pipeline ensures faster, safer and more cost-effective fuel transport, replacing the earlier system of delivery by rail wagons. Officials noted that the supply comes at a crucial time, strengthening energy cooperation between the two nations amid global oil market volatility. Now, Prime Minister Modi is set to visit Kerala on the 11th of this month to inaugurate and lay the foundation stones for several major development projects. These include industrial, highway, railway and renewable energy initiatives aimed at boosting connectivity, employment and sustainable growth in the state. Take a look at this report. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Kerala on Wednesday. He'll lay foundation stones and flag off multiple developmental projects worth around 10,800 crore Indian rupees in Ernakulam. The PM will lay foundation stone of polypropylene unit at Kochi Refinery of Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. With an investment of over 5,500 crore Indian rupees, this project will strengthen India's domestic polymer manufacturing capability, reduce import dependency, and will also generate employment opportunities.
Kochi was one region where we wanted to make it in a big way. And with that aspiration, we had planned to set up a polypropylene unit with the estimated cost of more than 5,000 crore. Right now, project is on full swing and we are aiming to commission it next year. And under this project, we will be making 400,000 ton of polypropylene.
Prime Minister Modi will also inaugurate two major highway projects. First, the 6-laning of Thalapadi-Chengala section of NH66, which is built at a cost of over 2,650 crore Indian rupees. This section forms part of the Mumbai-Kanyakumari economic corridor and will strengthen connectivity in the adjoining regions.
PM Modi Sahab is coming to Kerala and all our Karyakarta is very happy and everyone is expecting and the whole Kerala people are expecting to announce some projects for the Kerala people also.
In addition, the PM will also flag off the 6-laning of a section of Kozhikode bypass that will significantly reduce congestion, improve connectivity and traffic capacity to important destinations like Kozhikode Beach, Baipur Port, giving a boost to tourism in the region.
We are very much happy because the Prime Minister is coming to us and he is trying to bless us and he is trying to declare something in favor of us, so that we are very happy.
Prime Minister Modi will also inaugurate 23 rural roads constructed under the National Rural Connectivity Scheme in Kerala that will help improve connectivity and rural economy by ensuring better access to markets, education and employment opportunities. The PM will inaugurate 3 railway stations redeveloped under the National Modernization Scheme. These stations are Shorapur, Kuttipuram and Chenganassery. Also, the PM will dedicate the Shoranur-Nilambur Road railway line electrification project to the nation, which will enable faster, more efficient and sustainable train operations. Prime Minister Modi will also flag off a new train service between Palakkad and Pollachi, strengthening rail connectivity between Kerala and Tamil Nadu. He'll also lay the foundation stone of a 50-megawatt floating solar power project at West Kannada in Kollam district. This project will contribute to India's energy goals.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Kerala holds immense significance. It is expected to give a push to rail and road infrastructure while boosting connectivity in the region, further giving momentum to India's vision of Viksit Bharat 2047 or Developed India by 2047. With camera person Mukesh Kumar, this is Siddharth Bhardwaj reporting for DD India in Ernakulam, Kerala.
European Union Chief Ursula von der Leyen has called Europe's turn away from civilian nuclear power a strategic mistake, arguing that the war in West Asia had exposed the continent's fossil fuel vulnerability. At the opening of a nuclear energy summit near Paris, she also announced that the EU would create a €200 million guarantee to support investment in innovative nuclear technologies.
While in 1990, 1/3 of Europe's electricity came from nuclear, today it's only close to 15%. This reduction in the share of nuclear was a choice. And in hindsight, it was a strategic mistake for Europe to turn its back on a reliable, affordable source of low-emission power.
French President Emmanuel Macron said that civilian nuclear power allowed for energy sovereignty.
We must also go further towards the technological neutrality that I mentioned. Government aid and support mechanism must be fully consolidated within European framework to ensure the success of nuclear projects, from new nuclear power plants to small modular reactors. Just as with renewable energies, becoming technology neutral is key in this regard.
Pilotable, décarboné.
Macron has also talked about nuclear energy for data centers to run artificial intelligence. Now, in the latest updates from Nepal elections, counting for 165 seats under the first past the post system has been completed, and counting for proportional representation continues. Rashtriya Swatantrata Party has won in 125 seats, Nepali Congress has won 18, UML has 10 and NCP has won 8 seats. The RPP has won 1 seat, Shram Sanskritik Party has won 3 and an independent candidate has also won 1 seat. The EC had completed the counting of approximately 90% of the votes cast under the proportional representation system. So far, 6 political parties have crossed the PR threshold, with the RSP leading by a significant margin. Any party must cross the PR threshold, which is by securing 3% of the valid votes. Let's now take a look at some other news coming in from around the world. A Mongolian craftsman is gaining growing attention for his handmade epoxy tables that blend natural wood patterns with intricate handcrafted designs. The craftsman says creating such pieces requires significant manual labor and time, and most importantly, each table is unique. Researchers at Spain's University of Granada have developed an artificial cornea using fish scales, including carp, as a low-cost alternative to donor transplants. While human trials are still needed, scientists say the approach could reduce reliance on donor organs and support the local fish industry. The world recorded its 5th hottest February on record, according to the Copernicus Climate Change Service. Global temperatures were about 1.49 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Western and southern Europe saw above average rainfall and flooding, while other parts experienced colder and drier conditions. Warmer than average temperatures were also reported in the United States, Northeast Canada, West Asia and Central Asia. Sports now, and captain of India's T20 World Cup winning team, Suryakumar Yadav, has said his next target is to win the 2028 Olympic gold medal. Defending champions India retained the trophy after defeating New Zealand in the final and also became the first team to win the T20 World Cup 3 times.
24 और 26 दोनों में जीते हैं बैक टू बैक, बहुत स्पेशल फीलिंग है एकदम। 24 में हम जब जीते थे तब यही था कि इंडिया में जब वर्ल्ड कप होगा तब हम अपनी धरती पे जीतेंगे तो बहुत स्पेशल फीलिंग होगी, तो अच्छा लगा। 2028 का ओलंपिक गोल्ड हमारे लिए अभी अगला टारगेट है, और उसी साल जो T20 वर्ल्ड कप होने वाला है, अगर वो इंडिया जीत जाए तो हैट्रिक हो जाएगी, तो बहुत ही अच्छा लगेगा।
And the Board of Control for Cricket in India, or BCCI, has announced a cash reward of 131 crore Indian rupees for the entire squad following its 3rd T20 World Cup victory. The amount covers 15 players, coaching staff and other support staff. The amount is an increment of 6 crore Indian rupees from the 125 crore Indian rupees that Rohit Sharma's team was awarded back in 2024. India lifted the prestigious trophy after defeating New Zealand by 96 runs in the final in Ahmedabad. India not only defended the title but also became the first team to win the T20 World Cup 3 times. Now, India will once again take centre stage in global para sports as the 2nd edition of the World Para Athletics Grand Prix begins in New Delhi on Wednesday. Over 250 athletes from 8 nations will compete for top honours at the prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium in New Delhi. The event will feature athletes from India, Russia, Nepal, Bhutan, Hong Kong, Serbia, Bosnia and Egypt, highlighting the growing international presence of para-athletics in the host nation. India will field the largest contingent, with over 200 athletes competing across multiple track and field events and sport classifications. The tournament will conclude on the 13th of March. A total of 74 international classification slots will be available during the competition. India's Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty will eye redemption at the Swiss Open badminton tournament after an early exit from the All England Open last week. The Indian duo will begin their campaign against Singapore's Wesley Koh and Junsuku Kubo in Basel on Wednesday. The reigning Asian Games champions will hope for a deeper run at the tournament they won in 2023. In the women's doubles, Trisa Jolly and Gayatri Gopichand Pullela will face Hu Lingfang and Zheng Yuqie of Chinese Taipei in their opening match. Meanwhile, HS Pranoy and Kidambi Shrikant will spearhead the Indian challenge in the men's singles. Shrikant, who reached 2 finals last year at the Malaysia Masters and Syed Modi International, will open against Jason Gunawan. Pranoy will take on Japan's Koki Watanabe. Lakshya Sen and PV Sindhu have decided to skip the tournament. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live. Do keep watching us for all the latest. But before we close the show, let me tell you that Winnie the Pooh, the beloved comic character, is celebrating 100 years since his debut in 1926. Disney, which acquired the rights in 1960, is holding a year-long celebration of the bear, whose adventures have charmed generations worldwide. Pooh, even after decades, has remained a timeless symbol of joy, friendship and gentle wisdom. Enjoy.